All right, greetings. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be on to all of you. My name is Dr. Gloria Bashir, and on behalf of Masjid Al-Taqwa and our wonderful resident Imam Tariq Al-Amin, along with our Talim committee that's chaired by Dr. Aisha Al-Amin and Dr. Lionel Allen, I greet you all with the greetings of peace. Assalamu alaikum. And so we're going to open our Talim today with Al-Fatiha. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. And I'm going to say it in English. Praise be to Allah, the cherisher and sustainer of the worlds, the merciful benefactor, the merciful redeemer, master of the day of judgment. Thee do we worship and thine aid we seek. Show us the straight way, the way of those on whom thou hast bestowed thy grace, those whose portion is not wrath, and those who go not astray. Ameen, ameen, ameen. Ameen. Thank you for your patience. We did have some technical difficulty, but this presentation warrants our full hour and our full attention, so we're going to push forward. So we again have another dynamic presentation from one of our imams here at Masjid Al-Taqwa, Imam Rabbani Mubashir. And I will give a little bit of his bio, but most of us who are viewing know his bio very well. But for those who are new to our channel, Imam Rabbani, he is an assistant imam and the Arabic and Islamic studies instructor here at Masjid Al-Taqwa. And truly, truly a scholar in his own right. He's a graduate of the American Islamic College with a bachelor's degree in Islamic studies. And he brings to this presentation and to all the presentations that he so graciously does for us, his lived life experiences, and that span about 53 years as a Muslim here in America. And as a young man, Imam Rabbani joined the Nation of Islam under the leadership of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad in 1969, and of course has continued his Islamic growth under the leadership of Imam Worthy Muhammad, and of course through his own studies. And Imam Rabbani was also the former Imam of Masjid Ar-Rahman, and is currently serving as the assistant Imam under Imam Tariq Al-Amin. And Imam Rabbani is always so gracious. He's always so willing to give. He really is, treasured by the believers here at Masjid Ar-Rahman, and is always willing to give his best, either with his intellect or his physical work. And we know how important the physical work is as well. So I thank you all, and I thank Imam Rabbani, and I'm going to turn it over to you, Imam Rabbani.
Alhamdulillah, thank you very much. That was very generous introduction.
and very, very heartfelt.
Alhamdulillah. We appreciate the value of all these great believers who have joined us and members of this beautiful Muslim Islamic community, and also of this mission that Allah has chosen us all to participate in. So we thank Allah, and we begin Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim with Allah's name, merciful benefactor, merciful redeemer. I witness there is no God but Allah, and Prophet Muhammad is his servant and his messenger, and pray the prayers and peace be upon the most excellent messenger Muhammad, upon his descendants, companions, all righteous. Ameen. Do I share my screen?
Yes, you have sharing capabilities.
I'll go ahead and start sharing because we don't want any more challenges. Let's see, how are we? Do we have
we do see your screen?
Okay, now I'll move this menu out of the way here. Gonna minimize it so it don't block the view. Okay, alhamdulillah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. This is a very unique topic, as we all know. And from those who are in this gathering, in this meeting with us, are people who have much more knowledge of this history than I do. So I am by no means presenting to be a scholar or a historian or an authority on our topic, which is the Nation of Islam in African American history, focusing between 1930 and 1975. And as I've stated before, and want to need to restate, that this is hopefully will serve as a prelude to the upcoming tour, the African American history tour that Imam Tariq in his wisdom and foresight has seen, and his courage to see that this is something we need to initiate upon our own selves. And I've seen evidence, and we've all may have seen evidence, that people are not going to tell your story like you're going to tell it, and some are not really inspired to tell it at all. I hate to begin with the negative, but you know, Allah shows us, right? La ilaha illallah. You use the negative to help emphasize the positive. So I have to make this reference that justifies us really investing ourselves, I mean, each of us, in preserving this history of the Nation of Islam. Well, I'm sure we're all familiar with Henry Louis Gates Jr. and his documentary, The African Americans, Many Rivers to Cross. I love the work, I love the history, I love to watch it. I've seen it recently. I'm sure many of us may have viewed it recently. I have the book, and I noticed the oversight, whether intentional or not, of the lack of representation of this topic. That's the Nation of Islam, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Look in the index to see if maybe I've overlooked something. Maybe I saw maybe 5 or 6 of the series. So maybe I missed something, but I can't justify why this page in history would be so rare or would be overlooked. So let me go to the next slide, because this is where I want, which I'm choosing for my starting point. Different researchers on the history may choose different starting points. I really love this as a starting point. And it's a quote by Frederick Douglass. I think Frederick Douglass has been represented or introduced as, identified as the father of the freedom movement. Is that correct? And you all can unmute if you don't have background noise. It won't disturb. Or we're going to have to participate in this history because it's a shared history. It's a shared experience. As I said, there are people can give much deeper background that all of us can benefit from on this topic. But I love these words. I wish someone else could read it. I tell you the truth. I really like to listen to someone read the words of Frederick Douglass.
I'd be happy to do that, Reverend Rabbani, if you ask them to volunteer.
Please volunteer. But you know,
this will probably be the last time I volunteer during this session. So
sure, of course. You and Zakia, we have a beautiful committee here. But wouldn't it be beautiful if we had a teenager maybe who could read these?
Oh, that's really great.
That's what I'm talking about. So I was hoping we would have a mixed audience. Go ahead, Clyde, please.
Okay, sure. The fact is, my friends, we are opening a new account with the American people and with the whole human family. Hitherto, we have been viewed and have viewed ourselves as an impotent and spiritless race, having only a mission of degradation and folly before us. Tonight, we stand at the portals of a new world, a new life, and a new identity. Frederick Douglass, 1818 to 1895.
You have any comment on that quote?
Well, let me just say I cheated because I really love Frederick Douglass. I just wanted an excuse to quote Frederick Douglass. First of all, I think Frederick Douglass, in many ways, I see Frederick Douglass as in part the Martin Luther King of his day. What I mean by that is he was starting a tradition of oratory, I call it strategic oratory, that Black leaders often had to fashion for themselves to be able to be around long enough to get their messages out to us and the country. The other thing I find is it's little things in the language, just the word spiritless. You know, today we would have a pretty non-religious understanding of that would have a kind of non-religious connotation to us. But you think about the time in which he was saying that, it had a much more spiritual connotation than it would have today. And I think he was talking to Americans, Black and white. He was talking to abolitionists, which we have been led to believe were just about all white people, where actually Black people were abolitionists too. You know, I mean, how are you going to say that the slaves didn't count as abolitionists when they were actually probably stronger abolitionists than anyone? And I say that because I think of my great-grandmother whose words are passed down to me a lot through my grandmother. That's where I first heard the word Frederick Douglass. That's where I first heard the word abolitionist. So I didn't think of abolitionists as white people until I got in school later, and they started telling me abolitionists are white people. He's an abolitionist.
Here's a quote that I'll read. I can think of no 20th century leader with anything like the impact of Elijah Muhammad, whose life has been so profoundly unexamined. Jill Nelson, author. I think there are many who know that there's a history that's missing in the broader public mind, and maybe even in the, hopefully not in the academic, but it's possible that there's been overlooked, some is underestimated. Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Sister Claire Muhammad, so formerly Elijah Poole and Clara Evans. Very significant picture here, and what this picture actually stirred in me, what we learned from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's granddaughter, Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Sister Claire's granddaughter, Halima, who informed us, and maybe most of you, or maybe many of you may already know this history. We could ask the question, how did Honorable Elijah Muhammad meet W.D. Farad? How did Elijah Poole meet W.D. Farad?
Well, his wife actually introduced them.
Right.
His Sister Clara had gone, I guess she heard him speak, and she was so impressed by him, by Master Farad. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was scheduled to go visit Drew Ali and another speaker, but his wife encouraged him to go see Master Farad, to hear him. And he did. And from that time on, he was just, I guess, consumed with that. It was Allah's calling, I guess, for him to go. And he recognized what Master Farad Muhammad was saying, and it was something for him. And so we came back, he told his wife that he's going to follow Master Farad. And so that eliminated him going to Drew Ali. But he may have talked with them from time to time, but joining along with them. It was two of them, it was Drew Ali and another prominent person during that time.
And we're the products of that initial meeting and what followed and transpired from that time. And I guess it's the early 1930s, I believe.
Yeah, it would be early 1930s, because I believe it's like 1930 itself. And so during that time, up until, the government imprisoned him for not going to the army or whatever. That led into the 40s.
So the leadership grows, and we know it was ups and downs and a great deal of perseverance, opposition. Many Muslims did time in jail. We still have a brother Musa, who was one of those persons who experienced that, going to jail in the 40s, actually, here in Chicago. So the leadership, go ahead.
No, you're right. You're completely right about that. Other people did go, other members did go to prison with him. I know Brother Kareem Darnell's father was one of them. And
that's right.
Right. And he spent time there. And then when he returned, I think it was like in 1946. And then you all have to remember too, World War II was going on at that time, prior to that time. And when he returned, in 1946, I believe it was. And then he started moving his movement forward, because the time that he was in prison, and why Sister Clara Muhammad has such an important role in this, and the sisters too. We really need to embellish this, because the sisters and Sister Muhammad, she was taking instructions from her husband on what to do, because everything was landed in her lap. Because when they took him away, nobody else was there to teach what Master Farad Muhammad was teaching down to Elijah Muhammad. And so she was following his instructions on how to construct, I want to say how to construct the Nation of Islam, but not yet the Nation of Islam. And so she was also blessed. Some sisters and she got together, and they literally was writing the Holy Quran, taking that into the prison, because back during that time, they didn't allow the Qurans into the prison. And so they would literally write it out on paper and take it to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. Sister Clara Muhammad did. So, and she went through a lot. She did. She went through a lot while he was away. They got a lot of opposition, even in sending their children to school, because the schools, they had their laws and all of this. So she took her kids out of the public school. And then a truant officer came to her house, saying, "You can't do this. What's wrong with you?" And she said, "My children are no longer going to your school. I will be dead in this doorknob, until I let my children go back to your school." And so what happened, they really did try to prosecute her, but they didn't. They didn't succeed at that. And what actually happened, other members started taking their children out of the public school. And then, so they left her alone because they saw what had happened. Other people started taking their kids out of school. So they said, well, let's leave this alone and let it kind of die down. And so that's when I guess homeschooling evolved, which is so popular now in charter schools. They started teaching in their own homes, their children. And
okay, so we need to move on. So yes, so we know that this continued until the Imam Elijah Muhammad established the system, the Clara Muhammad School, the University of Islam system throughout many cities throughout the country. But we may come back to that. We will come back to the issue of education and see some of the schools in the slides that we'll be coming to. But we're seeing the foundation of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's leadership. We'll see many other branches of that leadership. But in terms of Frederick Douglass and the traditional leadership of our people, African Americans, the struggle, I wonder how many people know that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad met with Dr. King. I doubt if some of the new people, of course, new generation, 50 and younger maybe, or 40 and younger may not. This might be a surprise to see the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Dr. Martin Luther King in consultation. And this was in the home of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. This is one of the photos that's being preserved with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad organization by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad grandchildren, preserving these photos for historical purposes, right?
Right.
I think 1966.
It was around 1966. I remember because I remember where I was, and I was in college, and I was kind of reawakening, and I was very interested in the Nation of Islam. And as a lot of you know, had a very sense of a personal connection with King, having been from Montgomery and having really listened to him and been influenced heavily by him. That was a major thing. But it's amazing how the press suppressed that when it happened.
Yeah.
Most people didn't even know it happened.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did happen. That Martin Luther King did come to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's home, and they met. And also, people might not know, also, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad donated to the civil rights movement directly to Martin Luther King.
Exactly.
And so he did support him.
But give us some context on this one. That broadens it even more. These are the top.
Oh yeah, that's Abernathy.
Abernathy.
They're all in there. Yeah.
Let's see the names. We have
Andrew Young on the
what's
left.
His brother's name on the left? Is the left or right?
For the purpose of the audience viewers who may not know these, recognize this, from left, we'll go from left to right. Andrew Young.
Andrew
right?
Young.
Yeah.
Hosea Williams.
Hosea, well, yeah, that's who he is, right. Ralph
What's called-
Abernathy.
Wait a minute.
Ralph
I'll write that
Abernathy,
down.
Muhammad Ralph Abernathy, and then I'm not familiar with the one on the end, but his name is Bernard Lee. Do you know of him, Clyde? Bernard Lee?
I remember when his name was floated around, he was never really super visible, but I remember him as say somebody really working in the background, having a lot of impact. You know, there were so many people in the background whose names we never knew, especially women, whose names we never knew. And I think somebody really needs to look into that. Because, I mean, if you want to talk about the civil rights movement, even going back to the bus boycott, there would have been no logistics for a bus boycott if it had not been for those women who organized themselves and got out into the city of Montgomery on Friday and Saturday night, because none of the brothers had thought about the fact that they need to go to the tavern if you want to get the Black people off the bus. It was the sisters who organized that, used the mimeograph machines and got out there and did the hard work and made sure those buses were empty that morning.
That's right.
Yeah.
You said it was Abernathy, and who's the brother next to him with beard?
Hosea Williams.
Oh, that's next to Andrew Young is Hosea Williams, isn't it?
Yeah, Andrew Williams.
Oh, yeah.
On the right.
Bernard Lee. I'm sorry, Bernard Lee.
Yeah.
There were many organizations, grassroots organizations, right?
Mm-hmm.
SNCC, Student Nonviolent. So let's go on, let's keep moving because we got a lot of ground to cover here. This was also at the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's home. And we know this is, I guess, in the 60s, right? Of course, Muhammad Cassius Clay accepts Islam, major chapter in the event, changes his name from Cassius Clay to Muhammad Ali. Let's keep moving. So this begins what was published. Since like here, you probably remember some of the other ones. Remember this?
Yeah, I remember that publication. As a matter of fact, I helped put it together with Brother B.I. I think it's B.I. and someone else that was, it might have been Bacha.
We got the authoritative people here.
It was just showing the businesses because it was showing the accomplishments of the Muslims, because back then we had the laundry, the cleaners, but that Brother Emmanuel was heading up.
Hold your comments. We're gonna go through it.
Oh, okay.
40s and 50s. So Sister Zakia, I know we don't want to show our age, but you may be familiar with.
That's right. Hey, thank Allah.
40s and 50s. In Chicago, Illinois, of course, but we're focusing, this focuses mostly on Chicago, this publication. I recognize 71st Street, my first contact with the nation's business, the grocery store and supermarket, restaurant.
Right.
At that time, it was Temple number 2 grocery. Am I correct that that's 71st, Sister Zakia? I know the pictures are not the best pictures, but we just use it as a symbol of how startup began.
Are you saying this is the one on 71st?
I can't see the. It said in 1939, Mr. Muhammad and trip to Washington, D.C., where he'd be before. No, I don't see the date, but it says 71st Street, yeah.
Yeah, 71st. I thought that's one on 71st.
Yeah, grocery store and restaurant on 71st Street. Yeah.
Right.
It was by the Temple. Right.
Right.
Okay.
And you probably see a picture at that particular restaurant and bakery, a picture of Muhammad Ali and Wali, the communicator, when he was a young
I've seen that picture before.
Right. He was sitting there. He was sitting there with Muhammad Ali on the 71st.
That's the historic picture.
Was it St. Lawrence?
St. Lawrence, yes.
Yeah, St. Lawrence. And then they had, living quarters above it as well.
Apartments, right.
Right, they had apartments up there.
Some more historical photos from that, from the brochure, from the book, Honorable Elijah Muhammad's home, which is very important. 4847 South Green,
South Woodlawn.
That was a very significant a role that it played in the leadership. We're looking at the leadership both ways, right? As an extension of the previous leaders, as it moves forward, and how Elijah Muhammad was able to, focus on the issues that would need to be focused on, how he addressed the problems of African Americans, right? But that home, as we just pointed out, was where he received top guests like Dr. King and visitors and guests from overseas. The school is 53rd. So on the tour, we will be passing these locations on the 18th. The bus will be going past, I don't know about 71st, but the 79th, the 48th, Hyde Park, the 50th, Greenwood, the school. This is not, now Sister Key, you said this is not the first location of the Clara Muhammad School, right?
No, it wasn't. Actually, when Elijah Muhammad returned out of prison, he started making, organizing. And just for a note, they had a school that they converted to a school, and it was I think I don't forget the area, but I think it was like a animal hospital or something.
That's what Darnell Kareem said it was.
Yeah, it was an animal hospital, maybe with veterinarians or whatever, dogs and cats, whatever. Anyway, he converted that to a school. And that was on 43rd. And I actually can't remember the address. My sister, 824 East 43rd. And 824 East 43rd. And that's my sister attended there, and quite a few, young Muslim people attended there. I remember my sister taking me with her. I guess I was in pre-K or something. And Darnell and Gloria, the Imam, and Akbar, my sister Janetta, Rosalind, all of them attended there, and they graduated from there. Oh, no, take that back. They may not have graduated. They may have moved on over to 53rd, 33 Greenwood.
Now, this also was included in that brochure to convey the message of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's leadership. And I think this is a powerful statement. Throughout the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's leadership, Muhammad Speaks newspaper and his teachings, it was about bringing about a social transformation of the African American, of the Negro, of the planet. So it was often contrasted with conditions outside of the temple to say that this was an answer, this is a response. This is continuing the line of tradition of do for self. And that has a rich tradition, the do for self movement. And so we see the fruit of Islam, which illustrates in contrast that the discipline, the unity and the discipline that's required for our unity will help us overcome these conditions that we of squalor, neighborhood squalor, and life of drugs, as is mentioned here. And also can see that abortion was still an issue even during these early times, can't we? I don't know what the actual date of some of those folks would be. But let's move on and see this attests to the full scope of in my view. You can give your input if anyone would like to give their input or comments about the leadership of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the breadth of his leadership. It's interesting to note that in this diagram of all the enterprises and involvements of the Nation of Islam, it included also technology and health. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad wasn't just looking for restaurants and barbershops. He was looking at the whole life of the community, future life of the community. Any comments on this leadership, this unique leadership that Allah's best come into being, do for self? Let's move on. The Salam restaurant, the fabulous Salam restaurant. This was part of the location that I used to pass because I lived down the street that introduced me to the Nation of Islam, to the spirit or the objectives, gave me a sense of what the Nation of Islam was all about. I was catching the bus in front of the restaurant to go to work and looking up at this beautiful, I said, this is really very attractive for us as a people, because this was in the late 60s. And I had seen enough of civil rights workers being beaten, clubbed, and having dogs sit on them. I was fed up. I was ready to migrate. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was indicating. So this is the interior of for those who are not familiar with this history. And this is what we remember, we want to achieve that, right? We want to introduce the history, they have a value, appreciate the value of the history. because we're representatives of that history. We're products of that history, right? The Crescent Room was the main dining room.
Yeah.
There may still be some brothers who were waiters at the restaurant. But I noticed in this picture that the first picture on the left, those don't appear to be members of the Nation of Islam, because the sisters are not, their hair is not covered. So, and I do recall this Christians used to come to the restaurant, they would welcome the restaurant, some of them congregations, and they would have their programs there. Ministers would have luncheons there. But it was a beautiful, very beautiful place. It was a jewel on the south side of Chicago. Vernell Fournier, he used to play with Ahmad Jamal. He converted to Islam, and he was a regular performer in the dining room, in the Crescent Room. The cafeteria, I think Monty was one of the managers or the cashier, Brother Monty, bless his soul and heart. The snack shop, all this was in the area where businesses were neighbors of each other. Across the street was the what? Your supermarket.
Your supermarket.
Your fish market. Snack shop. We'll see pictures of those, of the import, export. I'm sure some of these, we haven't forgotten these great achievements. This is the Temple number 2 clothing store. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad directed us to think independently and not depend on America. We had imports coming in from countries, I think Korea was one of them, others. Of course, we'll get to the fish, but this is 79th Street. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad was constructing a corridor of commerce, a commercial corridor down Cottage Grove from 83rd to 79th. From 79th West, we'll see the bakery, barbershop, and here's the Shabazz Bakery, which will be on the tour. I think we'll be going past, which is it's a restaurant now, African-American owned restaurant, I believe, there on 79. And yes, there is the infamous bean pie, right? Who makes the best bean pie? That issue, that argument has never been put to rest. If you go to Atlanta like I did and mention the bean pie, Sister Nan's bean pie, they say, I'm sure, I'm sure she has a very nice bean pie, but have you tasted mine? If you go to New York, if you go to New Jersey, Brother Khalid El-Amin, the truck driver, the trucks used to travel. So you see the networking that came about from the Honorable Elijah. Trucks would go from Chicago to New York, taking newspapers, Mama Speaks, and we would get a chance to taste their bean pies they would bring back. I want to ask you a question to you all who know the history better than I do. This wedding cake here reminded me about what I believe is an established historical fact of Cassius Clay or Muhammad Ali meeting his first wife, his first Muslim wife. Is that true? Anybody can verify? In the documentary, he meets his first Muslim wife, and he kind of flirts with her a little bit.
I remember him coming into the bakery, but I don't know about the wedding cake that you just referenced.
It's not new, it's a symbol. It's a symbol that he met Belinda. He met her at the bakery. She was working at the bakery. Khalila Ali, his wife.
Yeah, right. Khalila Ali, who was Belinda Boyd before, you know.
Yeah, right.
And yeah, he did meet her there.
Yeah. Oh, was this bakery?
Well,
I'm just trying to verify,
you know, it may not have been the one on 79th.
But you know, that sounds like Eli, the veteran. He's very efficient. So he would have sent it out early. Thank you so much. I got to put it on my calendar.
Glad is having another conversation. Okay, let's move along. Your supermarket, as I was saying, was right there across from the supermarket, from the restaurant, from Salam Restaurant. And there down just to the north of it is the fish market. It was beautiful market, well serviced. Products, fresh fruit. Your supermarket was really a very beautiful beautiful development for that on South Side Chicago.
And they were the recipients of the fish being imported by the Nation of Islam at that time.
Yes,
You got that
yes.
big
Back to
force of
Who do
the
you? Whiting H&G?
Whiting H&G.
Yeah.
Whiting H&G, that's right.
So this was the
Building great.
sales and office building, right? 78th and Cottage. I think the
Yes.
Muslim Journal office was Muhammad Speaks office was also moved there, I believe. Import-export office, I think, was housed there. Dr. Salam had a bookstore, I think, on the first floor. Maybe it's that up. Guarantee Bank. Clyde, I think you're going to present on the Guarantee Bank somewhat for the
I had a couple of I only had a couple of sentences about it. But some things I found out about what its current use is. I really don't have the specific, and I remember the approximate time frame of when it came into being. But right now, that now houses the Ebony's photo collection, Ebony and Jet magazines. All that stuff is housed over there, and on the lot, there's a little memorial to Tamir Rice down at the north end of the lot. You know, it's all, the whole lot is fenced in now, just to the south, to the north of the bank.
Okay.
Brother Clyde, do they mention anything about the Honorable Elijah Muhammad owning this building?
You know, I read the sign on the door. It didn't, but I don't know. Inside, it may say something inside. I didn't actually
check it out.
Yeah. If you can catch it open, that would be good to see. Because I know the guy who Theaster Gates is one of his projects, and I'll be shocked that Theaster Gate did not know that, because he's really, really kind of into history, heritage, and art.
Right, because we turned that into a nice operational bank.
Absolutely.
Again, Wali Muhammad was there too, the communicator, because I remember him. He was doing new accounts. I remember him being there.
Yeah, I remember that now. Yeah.
I came across in reading some other research about African American, economic progress in Chicago. I came across the name Jesse Binga. Has anyone ever heard the name Jesse Binga? Probably not. And
how do you spell the last name?
E-I-N-G-A. And I think that's why it's necessary. We have an obligation really to go back and get our history, because there's a lot of it is being omitted. But I was surprised to learn that here in Chicago, Jesse Binga was fountainhead of Negro banking in Chicago. Since we're the Honorable Elijah Muhammad continuing that tradition, is what I'm pointing to, right? Says he opened his own private bank in his real estate office at 3637 South State in 1908. So you get that time factor. 1908, the first quote unquote colored bank in Chicago. Jesse Binga, B-I-N-G-A. He was considered by both whites and blacks to be the guiding hand in many successful commercial ventures located between 31st and 39th Street on State. All right. Now I must read this last quote, because I'm saying that Honorable Elijah Muhammad is an extension, a continuation of something we had achieved as African Americans in Chicago on the South Side. So listen to these quotes, listen to these statistics. The State Street area was known as the Stroll. That sounds kind of familiar. The 3500 block on South State Street was both Broadway and Wall Street for African Americans from 1917 to 1928. How many businesses existed in that area? About 731 businesses. We're talking between 1908 and 1917 and 1928. About 731 businesses in that area were owned by Negroes, quote unquote, who practiced 61 different trades, not just painters and shoemakers, right? Not just restaurant owners, but 61 different types of trades. Among them, 13 limousine services, 14 manufacturing companies, 4 blacksmith shops, 3 bookstores, 23 saloons, 8 public halls, 6 hotels. Remember, we're just talking about a very small area. 14 to 23 saloons, I say 8 public halls, 6, what's a public hall? I don't know what a public hall is before my time. Gathering point places?
Yeah, it's like a conference and you can have weddings and stuff there. Weddings and different things in conference centers.
6 hotels, I said that right, 9 music stores, and I'm sure there was some beautiful music there, and 12 vaudeville houses featuring bands and stage shows. There were 72 physicians. We need to map this out. 26 druggists or pharmacists, 2 hospitals, and we're trying to get 1, right?
Yes.
40 lawyers, 21 chiropractors who cared for the tired feet of the strollers. I think that was the style, to stroll in your Sunday best, right?
Mm-hmm. Your Saturday night and Friday best too now, Brother Rabbani. You wasn't just Sunday.
That's right, more so. That's right. So I hope y'all didn't mind me, but I needed to make that connection when we're talking about the Honorable Elijah Muhammad returning to that tradition, not just with the bank, but with his vision, right?
Mm-hmm. Brother Rabbani, if you don't mind me inserting something, you know, I had to go to Wikipedia on this brother. I could see the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's respect for him and his respect for the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. They did the same thing to this brother that they did in Tulsa, except they used law to destroy his thing. They used fire and bombs in Tulsa. They put this brother in prison to stop him from doing what he was doing.
Yeah, see, that's
and he spent a lot of time in prison.
And under what charge? I mean, what
they claim he was embezzling. They claim he was, using the people's fund. But if he was using the people's fund, then why in the same report, it says the Black community came out in protest, thousands of them. And that actually helped to lead to his release.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that, Clyde. That's a very important part of our history. So now let's move forward. Where are we? We're at the school, education. Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Sister Clara Muhammad. Sister Clara Muhammad was one of the leaders of the education emphasis for the community on education. Of course, Clara Muhammad School. This was purchased, of course, with the whole area on 73rd in Stony Island, which is now Mons Mariam. The school teacher, you probably can't see the photo of the sister teaching there. She's teaching Arabic though, and you can close. I could go in and see that she was teaching Arabic, but I couldn't recognize who she was. Clyde, were you were here at this location, right?
Yes. Yeah.
What year?
That would have had to been the 70s at the lady. It couldn't have been earlier than the 70s because that's when the move was made to that facility.
That would have been back in 75, wasn't it?
Well, Arabic probably wasn't. I don't know whether they taught Arabic before the Imam came in or not, but that looks.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought Arabic was taught before then.
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And he was in the class. Her sister was in the early Arabic.
Yeah.
What year was that?
Clyde, are you saying 73rd or 53rd?
No, 73rd.
73rd right there.
Yeah, this is 73rd. And the reason, and sister's right. The reason I know it's before 1975 just by the attire the students are wearing.
Yeah, I was there. I was at the school.
Oh, you know then.
I was there. Yes, sir.
No, yes, I'm asking, is this in 53rd Street or is it on 73rd?
73rd in Stony Island.
That's on 73rd.
Yes.
So
Tell me the year.
By you, sister, what's your name?
Sister Khalila Ali.
Oh,
Khalila.
Yeah, I was at all schools.
We got a special honored guest.
We got a special guest here.
Yeah, Sister Minnie. I just came in the house and Sister Minnie had typed and sent me this link. I said, oh, I hope the time link went over. So I just turned it on. Assalamu alaikum, everybody.
Wow.
Walaikum assalam.
Oh man, when I saw these pictures, that just gave me flashbacks. These are beautiful.
Yes.
Alhamdulillah.
You see that, Bill? Bill told us in the beginning, he said, when we run late, good things always happen.
That's right. That's right. Everything's on time though, right?
Yes.
That's right. So now, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, class, we got to think on this. We got to think into this. You know, what's the research approach to studying phenomena, cultural phenomena, human phenomena? They have an approach they call the emic, the perspective, from an inward. And that's why the commentaries, insider's perspective. So we're blessed to have that. We won't always have that in the future, in 100 years from now. So we have to preserve it now.
Right.
The eyewitness is the testimony of the eyewitness is always more important than the other evidence, right? Circumstantial.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. So the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said it's the University of Islam, and he didn't have to mean it literally. He was trying to influence our thinking and appreciation for education, right? Because he was straight out of off the corner, right?
That's right.
He wanted the raw material, I believe is accurate.
That's right. And the reason why he called the university is because it was a higher education than even the universities of that time didn't have this information, because they didn't even have Black history in public schools when I was going to school. So, you know, this is like a higher education. That's why it's called the University of Islam. It was a higher education.
I heard one student say, I forgot, I don't know, recently said that when they left the Claire Muhammad school, the Muslim school, and had to go to public school, they had culture shock.
Of course they did. I know they did. I know they did. I mean, it was a shock. It was, because it was something they never heard of.
That's right, Kalila, because when we were back in school, this is Zakia, they taught us African-American history. They taught us African history. We had what was that book called? Accomplishments?
A basic book for
amazing facts or something.
Was the pictorial historical book from Langston Hughes. Is the historical history of Black America, slaves in America, by Langston Hughes. It was a pictorial history book from Langston Hughes.
You have to realize we were taught African history before we were taught other histories of America.
Absolutely.
It was
talking back in the 30s, though. It was talking back, not just in the 60s, it was the 30s. It started back in the 30s.
When is she coming in?
So this was the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's vision. He wanted to build an Islamic university.
Yes,
and
sir.
That's the rendering that he had drawn. And there's a quote in the text that I know you all can't read. What he said.
The nurse.
Oh, that's Sister Zach. So it says that the quote, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's words, a quotation from this commentary on this project.
Yes, sir.
The university's ideas and hopes are to use scholars and scientists of all nationalities. So that reflects, again, I see that as the Honorable Elijah Muhammad Frederick Douglass, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah. And also he had a drawing way before this one, back in the late 60s. That was even better, before this one. There was another one that was in our yearbooks that I helped develop in the 60s. It was another one that was a frame of a mosque, but the university was surrounding. It was a part of the mosque, because this is a later one. He had one a little bit before that one. This one. Khalila. Yes, sir.
You may have came in right after we were having a brief discussion about where you met Muhammad Ali, or was his name Cassius Clay at the time?
It was Cassius Clay, bro. Believe me, trust me.
And which bakery?
But see, this is the thing. Before I even got to the bakery, by the time I got to the bakery, he was about to propose to me. I met him in 1960 when he was 18 and he came to the school, and I was 10 years old. I was an honor student. And when he came there, he got on stage. This is in my book coming out, inshallah, next month. I'm telling my side of the story. And he said, and everybody in the school was admiring of me back then, even because I was always close to the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and his grandchildren. And he came in there and got on stage. And I believe the only thing I could remember that brother saying was, My name is Cassius Marcellus Clay. I'm going to be the heavyweight champion of the world before I'm 21. So get your autographs now, because I'm going to be famous. And I go, what the heck? What is he? How he gonna figure out what he's gonna be? He got a slave name. He talking about what he gonna do before he 21 years old. And then he gave everybody autographs with his name on it. It said Cassius Marcellus Clay. And when he came to me, everybody stopped and watched to see what I was gonna do, because they know me and I know my history. And he talking all this stuff, and he got a slave name. They wanted to see my reaction. So he came to me and said, hey, little girl, here's my autograph. I'm going to be famous. And I looked at it and said, wait a minute. Your name is Cassius Marcellus Clay? He said, yeah. I said, Cassius Marcellus, that's a Roman name. Do you know what Romans did to people? He said, I don't know. I said, and then there you go right there. That's the kicker. Clay, that's dirt, you mold. And you proud of this, brother? And he said, I thought I was. and then I tore it up. I tore it up in front of him, saying, I said, until you get a name of honor, until you get a name of respect, matter of fact, until you get a Muslim name, you're not going to be known famous for this. You take this back with you. I don't want it. He said, she told my name, man. And Wally Baba goes, don't worry about it, brother. Everything's all right. And that's where the target landed on my forehead right then and there. Because he was, you know how young brothers, when they handsome, you know, when they get rejected, how they gonna react. You know what I'm saying? I don't know nothing about all that. I just know I was 10 years old and I was preaching Islam. I don't care who the man came from.
Allahu Akbar.
That's how laugh today. Living history. Y'all heard
that's living history, right? Laugh and live together. But see, because I knew my history. Oh, yeah. Wow. There you go. There's your supermarket. There you go.
But this is the import store across down the street.
Yeah. Import. Oh, that's import. Okay.
Now, where was it? Where was it? They were sewing garments. We had another location.
That was on 79th Street. That's on 79th Street.
The clothing factory, National Clothing
Factory. The clothing factory is on 79th Street. Yeah.
Like I said, Balajma was mapping out the South Side.
He mapped everything out. He had a whole township. He had. Oh yeah, there you go. There's what's that? Cleaners. That's the cleaners. That's the cleaners. We had a barber shop. We had a barber shop, a cleaners, a supermarket, a restaurant, a grocery store. There's the trucking department right there.
Not familiar with this history, we all Balajma also purchased an airplane, more than one, right?
He laid it up.
This was the first airplane.
We had the most biggest multi-billionaire transport of the fish.
Whiting H&G.
In the history of America, the biggest history of America.
We're gonna come back to that. We're gonna come back to that. You gotta stay around to see who's holding the box of Whiting H&Gs, Muhammad Ali.
H&G, yeah, okay.
This was at the plant. We had the chicken. Yeah, eggs. The farm from the farm.
There you go.
Farmland. You can't guess how many acres of farmland Balaj Muhammad had acquired. Nation
it was amazing. It was amazing.
Lamb packing. Bashir, if he's not on, he was supervisor of the lamb packing.
That's the news, Muhammad Speed newspaper, because I worked there.
Right. Yes. That's Muhammad Speed's newspaper. I was a
photojournalist there. I worked there, me and Wally Baha.
And they had a modern photo equipment we're going to see. This was the 26th and Federal. That's for those who are following us in this.
Now, as you know, you see these pictures, I took these pictures right here on my camera. Yeah, I was the photojournalist. I'm the one that created the yearbook, so I took those pictures.
Oh, we got eyewitnesses today.
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Well, let me
just run out of time, Glo, so we're gonna have to speed it up.
Yes, I was just gonna say, let me just interject that with all of this beautiful history, I hate to start to wind it down and bring it to a close, but I just want to keep in the forefront of everyone's mind that this is just really a small prelude to what's coming for our Black History Month tour and celebration. of the African American Islamic community. And so Imam Rabbani, what I'd like for you to do, if you will, cut to some of the pictures that you'd like to really show as we begin to wrap up.
We're wrapping up, yes.
Oh, wow.
This was the vision of Honorable Elijah Muhammad also for the property on 73rd and Stone.
Right.
He wanted to see it. So you can see the architecture here is Islamic architecture.
Right.
Right. It was his dream to really have the temple as looking like a mosque on the south side of Chicago, the jewel of the south side.
That's right.
So we're going to go by the properties, of course, on 48th. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
I see, there's Ali with the fish.
Yeah,
Yes, Whiting H&D. Not
Yeah.
only Allah forgive me sins and grant him paradise. He passed
Paradise.
He passed recently, and
He returned to Allah, what was that, a week ago or?
Oh, not
yeah.
Did he? I'm just asking, because I
Yes.
heard something. Yeah. It was a
He
week
did.
ago, like on the
Matter of fact,
17th or
Yeah, the
something.
janaza was last week, I think. So
Okay.
Oh,
Janaza
because
was
I
last
missed
week.
that. I
Yes,
didn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I missed
Yeah.
it too. Someone,
He was a good brother.
yes, he
Yeah.
was.
Imam
There-
Hassan officiated the janaza,
Mm,
and it was held in Fresno, California.
mhm.
Uh-huh.
And Sister Halima attended, I was told.
Okay.
Yeah, that was her
Her
father-in-law.
father-in-law.
I think she did.
Yeah, that was her
Yeah.
father-in-law.
Father-in-law.
Now, in
I do
concluding
have,
here,
I have a question in the chat.
Look at this.
Someone mentioned that they missed a lot of the presentation. And so we do have a YouTube channel. This segment, as all segments are recorded. And so go to the Masjid Al Taqwa YouTube channel. Okay, here's it.
Okay, all right.
Right.
Can I make a
So we-
statement, sister? All the schools, in the schools that Dami Elijah Muhammad and Muhammad's University of Islam #2, he also, the teachers there came from different countries and educators from the United States as well as outside the United States, like Africa, Cambodia, and other countries. We had teachers that was teaching us in the schools at that time. A lot of people don't know that.
Yes,
Right.
yes. Beautiful history. We have a couple comments again about having folk on who actually lived this history. So Sister Kalila,
Yes, ma'am.
yes, ma'am. And we appreciate your comments. It's beautiful to hear your voice. It's beautiful to hear your thoughts and impressions those many years ago. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. And I just want to let you know, inshallah, my life story, that nobody told my story in none of Ali's books because I wasn't ready to expose it at the time. So now I'm getting ready to expose and tell my background in where I came from and how I was there to support Muhammad Ali through his and guide him through his journey. We had the journey together. And about of my schooling and everything is all in the book as well, because before we got to Muhammad's University on 5335 South Greenwood, we was in a basement on 43rd Street. And I remember that as well. I mean, I remember when Imam Daniel Kareem and his wife were students. When they was in high school, we was like in lower grade school. We was like in kindergarten, first grade. So I was there, and the Imam Elijah Muhammad had the Imam Waradin Muhammad teach us Arabic when I was in kindergarten. That's how I learned all my first prayers when I first came up at 3 years old.
Yeah, and then Imam W.D. Muhammad returned to the school too. Remember, Kalila,
Yes,
when
yes,
we were
ma'am,
like in
he
8th
did.
grade or in high
Yes,
school.
ma'am. He did return to the school, and the greatest hero of all times is my best hero is Minister James Shabazz. He was just such a
James
beautiful
Shabazz.
brother. That
Yeah,
man was
Sheikh
he was an
Shabazz,
Sheikh Shabazz. He was an icon, and
Yes.
when he
Yes.
would have that stick and hit his leg with that stick, oh Lord, you had to watch out. They had the brothers in school making the paddles that we get whooped with, and they would make them make them in the workshop and everything with the wood and everything. We get up and comings with them paddles, and we had to stand in straight line.
That's
Yeah.
when back then was when corporal punishment was popular.
Yeah, but it was popular there because see, the teachers, the adults, they knew how to spank their children. They knew how. Like my father said, you spank your children with your hand, you spank them on their buttocks, nothing above the waist. You never spank it and never hit your children when you're angry. So these skillful mothers and fathers knew how to discipline people. It wasn't how hard they hit them. It was that they put them in check. It wasn't a cruel punishment, beating or anything.
Wise words.
Yes, ma'am. It wasn't a cruel beating or anything like that.
That's right.
These are our last slides.
Yes, sir. These are beautiful slides here.
This was, of course, this was after Imam Muhammad came in office. This photo is in the
Yeah, he came in office. Yes, ma'am.
Anybody want to read this quote? This quote on the side is from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad.
Oh, yeah.
It's from a book that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad published back in 1957.
Okay.
Yes. Well, go ahead and read it for us, Imam Rabbani. Yeah,
okay, Rabbani. Go ahead, Rabbani. Go ahead, knock it out, bro.
Zakia, Sister Kalila.
I want me to go ahead and read it.
Please.
Okay, these prayers, of course, are only a part of our duties as Muslims and as believers in Allah and His Messenger Muhammad. Keep up your prayers. Be mindful of your other duties as well. At present, it is significant that you learn these prayers, and we have printed them here. You will learn them in your own language, and that your righteous four parents in Arabic. Elijah Muhammad, Muslim Daily Prayers, February 26, 1957. I was 7 years old.
Wow.
Ameen.
Ameen.
I'd also want to thank Sister Zakia for your wonderful commentary. We really appreciate it, and we look forward to our big presentation. Imam Tariq, anything that you'd like to add about our Black History presentation, our tour?
Make a quick suggestion, and you all can think about it because I can't give out assignments. I think some of these pictures may be helpful to have them in some kind of form for people to have in their hands as they do the tour, because a lot of the places we're going to go, what used to be there is not there anymore.
Good point.
So
Yes.
we won't just have to tell them, well, imagine this, because we can perhaps have a picture in their hands.
Oh, that's
Yes.
a good idea.
Yeah.
That's a good point. Let's bring that up in our working group.
Yes.
Dr. Gloria, to your point, I think today's presentation was a wonderful segue into the tour. And obviously we have more information than we have time to share today and on the tour. But I'm excited about being able to go into some of this and go by some of those places that are still there. And also just to talk about the importance of our history and the contributions that they represent. So with that, I will turn it back over to you. Wonderful job. Thank you, Imam Rabbani.
Well, beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for letting us know.
Yes, ma'am.
So we're going to conclude now. And again, we thank you all and appreciate everyone's comment. Brother Clyde as well. Thank you for your commentary. And we look forward to seeing you all next Sunday for Talim as well. And we look forward to also seeing you all on for the Black History Tour.